Hello, today is Wednesday, April 24th, and welcome to episode 327 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI's Deputy Executive Director, Jessica Jones. I'm joined today by my boss, NSI's Founder and Executive Director, Jamil, and 2 senior fellows, Les Munson and Morgan Vigna. We have the whole crew today, which means it's going to be a good day. And we got 2 Fault Lines mugs also happening this morning. Perfect.
We need to figure, Jess, how to get our listeners some of this Fault Line swag. We got to talk about that because I mean, this could be exciting. People could write in. Maybe we get topic ideas or questions. Get some Fault Line swag.
Stay tuned, team. You might get one of these mugs. Oh, we got 3. Oh, Morgan, only if you weren't traveling.
Yeah, well, you're lucky I'm on with the time difference. So,
wait, where are you, Morgan?
Dallas.
Oh, you're in Dallas. Nice.
Live from Dallas.
All right, live from Dallas. Who shot JR, Morgan? All right.
Yeah.
What are we talking about, Jess?
Speaking of traveling, we actually have U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's 3-day visit to China, which begins today. While there are numerous things that may be on Blinken's agenda, one thing that keeps getting mentioned is that he may be there to provide a stern warning to China that the U.S. is going to start taking some harsh measures unless China stops sending weapons-related technology and supporting the buildup of Russia's defense industrial base. So the U.S. Government reported that in 2023, 90% of the chips that Russia imported came from China, and they were being used to produce missiles, tanks, and aircraft. The report also said 70% of Russian machine tools imports in the final quarter of last year were from China and were, quote, likely used to produce ballistic missiles. Of course, the impact of China's support to Russia, impacts the conflict in Ukraine. But, if it reconstitutes Russia's industrial base, it actually has the potential to go beyond Ukraine and actually affect the security across, larger European security. So while stories indicate that Blinken, we don't know what exact measures he may take or the U.S. is considering, many are reporting that sanctions on Chinese financial institutions are being considered. President Biden issued an EO in December warning financial institutions they may be cut off from the U.S. financial system if they continue doing significant transactions related to Russia's military industrial base. So Les, I'm going to first turn it to you. What do you make of Blinken's visit? Is he actually there to give a stern warning? Are we actually considering broad sanctions on China and its financial institutions?
I think Tony Blinken is the opposite of Teddy Roosevelt. He is speaking loudly and not even carrying a stick at all. This idea that they floated in the Wall Street Journal that they're going to sanction Chinese banks for supporting Russia, I don't think is very believable. Tony Blinken himself has kind of turned himself into a non-credible messenger, in my view, by being so deeply involved in the Biden campaign back in 2020 that on the Hunter laptop letter from all the old intelligence officials and things like that, that I'm just not sure he's really seen as a credible diplomat in the world anymore. And Janet Yellen was in China just a couple of weeks ago. If she had delivered a message about sanctioning Chinese banks, I think that would have been taken very seriously. I think the fact that Tony Blinken is doing it is a signal to Wall Street and other places, hey, we're not really serious about this. Don't worry about it. This is another election year ploy to make Joe Biden look tough while not actually being tough. And I think it's a mistake. I don't think the administration should be doing that. They should speak plainly and openly and actually say what they really mean rather than kind of engage in these fake efforts at looking tough. It's not dissimilar to what they're doing over the Gaza war, where they're talking tough about Bibi Netanyahu and trying to make it look like they're in favor of a much more humanitarian response there, when in reality on the ground they're supporting Israel extensively. So this kind of hide the ball thing with Biden diplomacy has really got to stop.
Yeah, Morgan, when you take this, we obviously care. I assume we obviously care that China continues to support Russia. Europe seems happy as long as China's not supplying lethal weapons. What do we make of Chinese support to Russia? Can we get it to stop?
I think Les is spot on, coming in hot, which is unusual for Les. I was usually expecting this from Jamil. But look, it's no secret. China has been a significant partner of Russia throughout its invasion of Ukraine. Whether it's providing propellants, motors, drone technology, whatever. Beijing has really kissed that line between actual arms and production capabilities here. And so, look, sanctions overdue. Beijing is supporting the Russian war engine. They're sending these critical materials to ensure that, Russia is able to sustain their war against Ukraine. Ukraine clearly has been, really, struggling in recent months. And I think the fact that, Congress just passed the supplemental is a step in the right direction. But at the same time, though, I'm not really convinced that this administration is actually going to follow through with these threats against China. I think they're a bit empty right now. And I think that says more about the Biden administration if they issue these threats and then fail to follow up on them.
Yeah, Jamil, I mean, Morgan brought up, we finally passed aid to Ukraine, Israel, and others. I mean, are U.S. dollars now just going up against Chinese dollars? I mean, not dollars, but you know what I mean. What do we make of this? I mean, what is actually, drawing the line? What would the Biden administration have to do to follow through with strong diplomacy and strong action when it comes to China?
I mean, I think part of the problem is, yes, this is American money going up against Chinese money, but that's been true for a while. This is part of the nature of the entire system that we're seeing across the globe right now, that we're competing with China for influence and access to materials and the like across the globe, and access to allies, and pushing back on adversaries. So this is not a new trend. And to Les's point about Blinken losing credibility, I mean, if what he's saying is true, then Blinken lost credibility a long time ago, and this is nothing new, right? I mean, first of all, senior cabinet officials are involved in campaigns all the time, so that's not a basis for saying the guy lacks credibility, right? And this whole Hunter Biden laptop story, I mean, look, 1934 called and wants its story back, Les. I mean, that's interesting, but
I'm sorry, like, Jamil, that's totally wrong. This is a guy who is supposed to represent the United States on the world stage with leaders in Europe, in the Middle East, in the Indo-Pacific. There's a lot going on, and it turns out he's just a complete hack who engages in the worst kind of negative campaigning. It's an embarrassment, frankly, for the administration.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. No former Secretary of States have never engaged in campaign, never involved in political hackery. Mike Pompeo, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton. Like, I mean, like the record is rife with secretaries of state. Like that's literally like half the job. That's how you get the job, by the way. You work on campaigns, and you're not some foreign policy. You're not some policy
more strongly. I could not disagree more strongly. Janet Yellen actually has some credibility. Tony Blinken, I'm sorry, just does not have credibility.
So I see we need an episode on history of Secretary of State soon to come.
I'm not trying to defend Tony Blinken. Let's be really clear. I'm not trying to defend Tony Blinken. And by the way, I agree with you that the Biden administration is not going to follow through. It's not because Tony Blinken lacks credibility. It's because the White House has no actual guts to back up their rhetoric with actual action. So, and we've seen that over and over and over again. So I think that's part of the problem. Although I'm not really sure how much they could do and how much pressure they could put on China to actually get them to stop backing Russia. I think that might just be, a very difficult thing to achieve, a really difficult effort to get right. And so, look, at the end of the day, we're going to see the Chinese going up against us in a variety of places. This is just another one of them. I think it's right to talk tough, but if you're going to talk tough, you got to back it up with action. This administration hasn't shown that, and I worry this is another example, to Les's point, of talking tough and not following through, as Morgan said. So, it looks like we're unanimous on this one, but not unanimous in a way that's good for America. So here we are.
I will say too, like it's not just about Ukraine. It's not just about China supplying weapons or other sort of capabilities to Moscow. I mean, look, I think there are a number of other issues on the table here too that are going unaddressed, whether it's oversupply or the fact that China is imprisoning Americans, or whether you have China continuing to commit genocide in Xinjiang. So I mean, I think there are a host of, or their malign influence in the South China Sea. So I mean, look, there are a number of issues here that China has been very problematic on. I think this one particularly with Russia is really sort of capturing everyone's attention right now. But the fact that we haven't seen this administration make any progress or any movement on any of these items, I think really is indicative of the fact that they don't have a China strategy at this point. And it's sending Tony Blinken or Janet Yellen to China to sort of continue this relationship. I mean, I'm not really seeing much come out of it.
Well, it seems like their policy is let's just actually try to get them on the phone or in a meeting, because we couldn't even get that a year ago. And they're counting that as a success instead of any deliverables coming from any of those engagements that continue to happen. So we'll see what comes of the visit. We've got another few days there. That's a wrap. Thanks so much to Devlin Burney, Claude Jennings, and the entire NSI team for their help in producing today's episode. Join us again on Friday, April 26th for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. We're on YouTube, so if you want to see our swag, please check us out there. And if you like what you heard or saw, be sure to to rate, review, and subscribe.